Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Pallion. I'm the race director of Alaskaman, and this is the ExtremeTries.com video podcast for Alaskaman. It's the last one we'll do before the event. This one is actually live. The others were pre-recorded. So just want to take some time today to go over the course and some of the changes that have happened recently. Nothing too drastic, just some things to make you guys aware of. And then after that, we will have a Q&A, but also we're going to talk about wildlife, and we have an expert on the line with us that we're going to let talk about a few things. So let's get started, guys. Thanks for joining us. This is the third year of Alaskaman. ExtremeTries.com is kind of that unifying brand behind everything. We also have Aloha Man and Island Extreme Triathlon. So the first one up, obviously, is Alaska, and that's going to happen in about 16 days, just under 16 days. We have 104 athletes registered and their support crews, so we look forward to seeing everybody down or up in Seward. And so I just want to take a second to talk about the swim, the bike, and the run, because there's things that you guys may be aware of, may not be aware of, that could potentially happen, that might not. So I just want to kind of go over that stuff. Shouldn't take too long, and just make you aware. So the first thing with the swim is that, as most of you have seen, I've emailed about it. I changed the website a while ago. We have a new course, at least for this year. Even if the water temperature warms up more than we think it will, we're still going to stick with that course for this year and see how it works out. The course starts at Lowell Point and ends by the waterfall. The new transition will be the Sea Life Center parking lot, which is a paved lot. And the run from the exit at the waterfall to the new transition area is about the same as it was from the old dock over to the park. So there's no real change to that beyond the initial one that came months ago, but I just want to let you guys know that is where we're at. As of now, it was just over 10 degrees Celsius, around 52 degrees Fahrenheit when I checked it today. Now, what I have online that I look at to check that temperature is usually a little bit lower than what it actually is when we get there in person. So right now it may be a little higher, but keep in mind, guys, it always does this, and in the past we've seen it do this in June. And what happens is it goes up in June, and then early July or even late June, it goes way back down because it warms up, snow melts, and then it runs down and makes the water colder. So the warmer it is over the next couple weeks, the colder that water may actually get because there's quite a bit of snow left. So, if you're wanting that warm water, just kind of hope that weather stays kind of cold, the air temperature, and it should help keep it right around where it's at. So we'll be posting updates when we get there. I don't know if daily on the water temperature, but definitely there's apps out there. Buoy Finder is what I use. So if you use Buoy Finder, there's some buoys in the area that are relatively accurate, and you can kind of check that out. And that's good for a lot of the X-Tribes because that has a lot of live readings from buoys around the world. So that's definitely a great app to look at. So moving on to the bike. Every year in Alaska, there's construction, DOT construction along the highway. And if you know anything about Alaska, there's very few highways. Seward is a main highway, and they do construction on it constantly. Last year there was construction. The year before there was construction. And the level of construction kind of depends on what they get done the year before, what they pass in the winter, how early they get started, the weather, everything. So this year there were 3 construction projects slated to start. One of them is definitely going on right now. The other one, I've been told, probably won't start this year. And then there's one kind of teetering on whether it will or not. So right around mile, I believe it's 70 through 90, they're doing construction. They're not doing all 20 miles of that at once, but at any given time, there could be 1, 2, or 3 miles torn up. Torn up doesn't mean you can't ride on it, from what I've been told. Torn up simply means that the shoulder's torn up and the road is. And if the road is, keep in mind, guys, cars still got to get through that. And they got to go through at a decent speed. So it's not like they've got loose gravel everywhere or anything like that, at least, again, from what I've been told. This year may be a little worse than other years. They don't have a choice. There's no way they can just divert traffic as they work on something. And so it's something we got to kind of live with. It most likely, if it affects you guys, it'll be 1 to 2 miles. And what'll happen is you'll just have to make sure you're out of arrow and slow way down and have control of your bike. At this time, we haven't been told of anything where you would have to get off your bike and walk or run or anything like that. And I've asked numerous times. So when we get there next week, we'll check it out in great detail. We'll talk to some people and we'll let you know if anything like that changes. But it looks decent, if not good, right now. Okay, so that's the bike course. No distances have changed or anything like that. The only other part of the bike course that there may be some construction starting up is right at the turnaround where you get onto Bird to Gird pathway. And I've been told that that is super close to not even being at that turnaround, but I have to go see for myself. Again, I don't even think they've started that yet, but I'll let you guys know. Going on to the run, the two questions I've gotten, a lot of you have heard about the tragedy that happened this past weekend, where a gentleman was helping people in and out of the tram on Winter Creek, and he tragically fell to his death off the edge of that, missing the safety net that is there. So that obviously is a huge loss and tragedy, and they have closed the trail indefinitely at this point. I don't know whether or not it'll be open. We do have quite a bit of time. Best we can tell, it wasn't, from what I've heard, it wasn't a malfunction with the tram itself, but because he missed the net, they may be talking more about extra safety measures and things like that. I do have a meeting with Girdwood Fire, Alaska Ski Patrol, and Anchorage and our medical team and things like that. So I'm going to get more details on that next week and where they stand with that, what they plan to do, and if they think it'll be open in time. If that's not an open in time, we have some out and back options. We have a reroute we could do using a little bit more of Girdwood, running through town, things like that, and going the opposite way up towards the Nordic Loop and to the tram, the back end of the tram, turning around and coming back. So there's a lot of options to add mileage in there. I don't think that'll be an issue. I've kind of mapped it out. It's hard because with the GPS and the trails, and it's Alaska, and you can't really do a lot on your computer. So you got to actually get out there and walk it, run it, jog it, whatever. So from everything I know over the past couple of years, there's plenty of mileage there to work with. Shouldn't be a problem either way. We just want you guys to be safe. So we've got to abide by whatever they decide there. I will update you soon on that. The other question I've received is because it's June, the upper part of Alyeska is not open right now. And it's like that every year. Last year it was like that too. And it opened, I think, the week before we got there in July. But that's not to say that we still can't get up there as a special event on the mountain. They just aren't opening it to, regular mountain biking and downhill mountain biking and hiking and that kind of stuff. So I've talked to Bernsky, who's the manager of the mountain. He said that one way or another, there will be a kick-ass course on that mountain. And he seemed very optimistic that it would be just fine getting everyone up there despite the snow. So we will again have our boots on the ground next week, and we'll do some reporting back to you guys on some of the live broadcasts that we do as far as that goes. So don't worry about it. We got you covered. And that's about it, guys, for the courses. I want to remind you, I sent an email out, numerous emails out since you guys started registering. And when you registered, it says this on the registration page. Make sure you guys know the website, like the back of your hand. Not just you, the support crew or team that you have, which should consist of at least one captain that is on the bike course with you in a car, not following you, leapfrogging you, giving you aid through 30 to 80. Make sure that you guys know everything on the website. I will be compiling some type of guide. It will not be as extensive as it has been in the past, because if a last minute change for some reason is needing to be made to the website, let's say, it's Alaska, anything can happen, right? First year on the bike, we had a section of the road that eroded out 2 nights before, and luckily they got it done in time. But my point is, if something like that happened and I had to alter a course or put a warning out there, I would put it on the website. I would tell you guys, but then that's another thing I've got to update is the book. And given the reception and everything in Alaska, that gets really tough. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to just grab the pages right off the website. I'm going to copy and paste them into a PDF book you can download, because some of you may not have reception to go on the website while your team member is racing if you're the support. So I want to give you something concrete that you don't need reception for. But that being said, always go back to the site for the most up-to-date information, okay? So that book will be done before I leave on Monday, and I will blast that out to you guys one way or another. And I'm just reminding you guys, look through everything on the site. and read all the emails, look at the Facebook posts. And the next thing we're going to go into is wildlife. Right now we have a couple videos up there. They were the best ones I found last year when I researched it. I think they're pretty good. And hopefully you guys have looked at that. But what we want to do is get better at what we do. So one of our athletes from last year, Carmen Daggett, she is the North Slope area biologist for Alaska Department of Fish and Game. Expert in her field. She knows all about wildlife. So she reached out to us early this year wanting to know if we wanted to do a little more with that. And of course we do. Okay, so she's on the call here, and I'm going to turn this over to her in just a second, and she's going to go over today with you some of the stuff that you may want to think about before you get there, where if you thought about it after, might be too late and you couldn't bring it or implement it. So we're going to do that. She actually finished Alaskaman last year as well, so she's a finisher just like you guys, and she's signed up again this year. So with that being said, here you go. Go, Carmen.
Thank you, Aaron. So as Aaron kind of said, there's going to be a presentation at the race briefing that's going to go in a little bit more detail about things. So this is just the kind of heads up sort of things that you're going to want to think about before the race. One thing that you're going to want to consider is where you're going to keep your bear spray. So on some of those vests that you can get for running and on your bike, you're going to want your bear spray as accessible as possible. There have been incidents where people have had bear spray on them, but they couldn't get them fast enough and it was ineffective. So think about immediately accessible places for your bear spray and where you can keep them in your gear and on your and it's better to keep it on you than on your bike. Because you might get separated from your bike if something were to happen. So think about that ahead of time and what you can do to try to keep your bear spray as accessible as possible. One thing that you might want to consider if you don't already have an aero helmet, or if you're thinking about getting a helmet and haven't gotten yours already, I'm nervous for you if you haven't already got your helmet, but you might want to consider if you have an Aero 1 and it's approved to bring your Aero 1. I've been through some training and in most of the time in bear attacks in particular, they tend to go for the back of your neck. So any protection that you can have for your back of your neck in those sort of scenarios is ideal. And so having an Aero helmet is a good idea. And one other thing that I kind of wanted to highlight, and it's already part of the race rules as far as being on the trails going into Girdwood, the bike trail, and then in particular, you're going through an area that's actually pretty decent bear habitat, and so you want to be out of that arrow position. You have to be anyways for the race, but I'm going to reiterate it, even though it's in the rules. First of all, I almost got hit last year by somebody who was not, paying attention, even though I was out of arrow position. So absolutely for that reason, with other people on the trails. And then also going through bear habitat, you'll see in the presentation that I'm going to give that you look a lot like a caribou when you're in arrow position. And when you're riding, you're basically what they would equate to running. And so if you see a bear, make sure you're out of arrow position, you get off your bike, and you stand your ground. And if you can avoid it, but don't try to outrun it on the bike as well as when you're in the running part of the race. I would be impressed if you could bike over 40 miles an hour on this course, other than going down the mountain. So I know those are kind of my think ahead sort of things and trying to reiterate. There was one more thing. If you have your bear spray ahead of time, take the time to practice taking the safety off. I know it sounds kind of stupid, but they are a little clunky. And so you want to lift up and back, an opportunity to practice with inert ones at the wildlife safety briefing too. But think about that, and then and make sure you cut your zip tie off that's going to be on there to keep it from extinguishing in inappropriate circumstances. So Those are kind of my heads up ahead of time things as far as wildlife safety goes, and there will be more to come. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, guys, chime in. You can type it in if you have any questions on Facebook there. So we'll keep Carmen. Definitely, you're welcome to stay on for the rest of it, but we'll at least keep you on a few minutes here in case it's lagging and somebody wants to type in a comment, if you don't mind there. I know last year. And I didn't mean to kind of laugh there. It's not funny, but somebody discharged accidentally bear spray at Alyeska, not during the event, but I heard about it. I think it was a couple months after our event, and it was just, I think it was Amber, Chain Reaction, Jamie and Amber. They were saying they were out there, and it might have been before, I can't remember, but they said it was just horrible. Like they had to call an ambulance over and stuff. It was just, the whole area was bad with spray. So, correct me if I'm wrong, when you discharge that, if the bear goes away and you move on, people running through that area may still get that, right? Or no, with bear spray?
It depends on how windy it is, okay. But it's possible that there could be still some lingering in the air. So yeah, it's possible. I guess, I would just say, you realize that you're basically carrying what Canadians consider the equivalent of a firearm. Yeah. And so, it's definitely needs to be treated like that. Keep it away from your kids. And I mean, my mom found one in the house and sprayed herself with it accidentally because she didn't realize what it was. And yeah, got it in the eyes and she was like, I feel bad for bears. So, yeah, I don't know. It's nasty stuff. It definitely works. But if you do discharge it, make sure you hold your breath if the wind is coming your direction.
And you, to my best knowledge, I definitely know you can't carry it on, but you can't fly with it either, right?
No.
At all. Like they won't even allow it in your checked baggage. Okay. So guys, remember, do not buy this ahead of time, ship it to yourself or anything like that. If you have somewhere in Alaska that you're staying, obviously you can ship it there if you buy it online, but Jamie said you can call into Chain Reaction and order it. He usually has plenty. We will have a few extra cans that that are relatively new. They're not old enough where it's a problem, that they're not brand new. That we may have in cases of emergency, but we do not have enough for people to buy them from us or for everyone to rely on us. So I know Cabela's and a few other places locally in Anchorage have them. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Carmen?
I think REI also carries it. And probably Sportsman's Warehouse and several other places. So yeah, it's not difficult to find in Anchorage.
Okay. All right. So we'll keep you on for a few more minutes, or you can hang out till the end. I'm going to switch back to my screen. If you guys have any questions for Carmen about wildlife, feel free to type those in. We're working on getting a couple of longer videos than what we have up that have more detail, elaborating in great detail on what we have on there, and then a bunch of other points we probably don't. So we're going to see what we can do about getting those up. If we get those up, I'll let you guys know. If I get them up, they are definitely mandatory to watch. And then we'll have more information at the meeting before the race. So thank you, Carmen, for your time today and for coming on. And if we get any questions, I will let you know.
Thanks.
Okay. Hold on. There we go. Okay, guys, that really is about it as far as the stuff that I had on the list to talk about before we just open it up to a general Q&A. I have some questions that have been asked through the email that I sent today. There are some people that don't have Facebook, so I told them they could reply to the email with their questions and I'd answer them on air. I also have some from the post I did a few days ago that I'll answer as well. But before we get into those, let's see if there's any questions online. And Carmen, without switching the screen, someone asked, is there a minimum size for bear spray? I can.
So you can get two different sizes of bear spray, and I don't think that a minimum size is, really necessary. You can only get them in two different sizes, and what I would say though is that, you can spray them more than once, and if you have a larger canister, obviously you have more opportunity to do that. If you have a smaller canister, you're obviously going to have less volume to deal with, so that's something to consider.
Well, and I can say, as I'm sure Carmen can, and anyone else that raced the last 2 year or last year, because it was mandatory then, is that I mean, I've carried a big and a smaller can on me, and I really didn't notice any difference. The vests that I would wear running, the
Yeah.
camelbacks and stuff, I mean, they're tight enough where once you put a can in there, if you really make that vest tight, you don't notice the weight. It doesn't flop around. If you have water and stuff in there as well and food, I mean, it's just another thing at that point.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Oh, tips about moose. Anything different about moose that off the bat without getting into a lot of the stuff that's more detailed that you would talk about, at the briefing?
Um, so I would say that there's a few things about moose. You just want to make sure that you remember that to a moose, you're a threat instead of food, and so you want to remove yourself as a threat. And the best, run away from them, hide. They have really poor sight memory, so hiding from them is really easy. I've actually been successful in doing that before, from a moose that was chasing me. I think that, you just have to, give them space. They need space, and they actually don't like people on bikes very much, so give them a wide berth if you happen to pass one on a bike. And I did see one when I was biking on the Seward Highway in May. And the other thing is that they very possibly could have calves by that point. So if you see a moose with a calf, you better give it a wide berth because they're super protective. So yeah. So hide, run, and if they knock you down, curl up in a ball and protect the back of your neck, and just don't fight back.
So, guys,
And don't bear spray them either.
um, there's no, the question I get all the time, and I'm sure Carmen gets it too, way more than I do, but is, well, how likely are we to see them? I mean, that's all over the place. You're likely to see something. I mean, I didn't think I'd see anything for as rare as people told me it was. And I've seen a bunch of moose. I had 3 bear sightings myself last year, one of which I was within 10 feet of it. I stopped frozen in my tracks and yelled really loud, and it ran off. It was scared. But not everyone has that same encounter. So from what I've heard, they're all different. You can't necessarily know exactly what they're going to do. You can just be as educated as possible and prepared as possible, and hope for the best. So we hope no one has any encounters out there, but we're definitely not going to go into it thinking that's going to be the case. I mean, I've seen them in the forest. I've seen them going through trash cans. They've been on the highway. They've been at the top of the mountain. They're everywhere. So from what I can tell, there's really no rhyme or reason from our standpoint. I know from yours, Carmen, being a biologist, there's obviously one. But am I right in saying that they could be anywhere at any time?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you're right that they could be anywhere. There's certainly places where there's higher likelihood that you're going to run into bears and moose. The marshy areas for moose are going to be kind of where they're going to want to hang out more usually, and in willow thickets. And then for bears, you're more likely to kind of run into them either on the running part of the trail or the section of the trail that lasts 13 miles or whatever that you're on trail. Those are probably the most likely places that you're going to run into them. And, you should be really aware, especially when coming around, tight corners and stuff like that where it's blind. And if there's water running, like I know that, we run by streams and stuff like that in this trail, like that's really loud and they're not going to be able to hear you coming. And so in those sorts of scenarios, you want to be a little bit more vigilant.
Well, and it's interesting you say that because the closest encounter I ever had was that one in the Nordic ski loop, and I came around a corner and he was right there. So yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. So all right, thank you for that. I don't see any other questions on the live comment section, so I'm going to go over to some of the ones that were emailed and posted earlier. One of the ones was about aid stations and what would be at them. I thought I had that. Maybe I don't, but I'm glad to answer it. The aid stations, it's what we can get out there. I mean, last year it was pretzels and cookies and crackers, and then we had some gels, I believe, and just various grocery items that we can get out there. And that's how, and bananas, we try to get bananas for sure, and maybe some oranges, whatever we can get locally. And it's harder to get a lot of that stuff locally and have it keep, because it takes a while to get out to Girdwood. And if we get it in Anchorage and bring it out, then it's not so good the day of the race. So we do the best we can. There may be some stuff that's packaged versus fresh, whatever, but we'll definitely have calories out there for you. If you're very picky about what you eat, then please, by all means, bring your own stuff. But if worst case scenario, you're just dying for something and you have to have it, we're going to have calories there for you. Coca-Cola distributors in Alaska is our sponsor, and they were brought to us from Ski AK, which has been our water stop sponsor at the Day Lodge now. This will be the third year. They provide some tents, and they hooked up the relationship with Coke. So we're going to have Coke on the course, and then Powerade, which is their equivalent to sports drink. So we're going to have Powerade out there. We'll have plenty of water. If you bring your own mix or you dilute gels in water or whatever, we'll have plenty of water out there for you to fill up all the time throughout the course. And then the Powerade, if you would like that as well. So we'll have that and cups and all you could have. But the cups, we're trying to stay as green as possible. So all of you guys will have something you can fill up out there. Just fill up your vest or whatever you have, and try to leave the cups in the sleeve if you can help it. So let's see. Another one I got, actually, there's one online here. Let me get to this. Is it still 65% even if you make the cutoff? No. This year, because of the amount of people, we're well within the amount that's allowed to go to the top. So as long as you make that 9 p.m. cutoff at the 23-mile mark, you are allowed to go up. But keep in mind, you have to go up and come down in 2 hours because the cutoff's 11 o'clock. And that's the same for the bottom, the low course. So if you don't make that 9 p.m. cutoff and you're on low course, you have 2 hours to go the rest of the way. If you do make the 9 p.m., still got 2 hours to go the rest of the way. So you're both fighting the same cutoff at the end. And guys, that cutoff's not there because we're mean or evil or whatever after that long of a day. It's because the bear activity on the mountain, Alaska Ski Patrol really wants to make sure everyone's off. Now this year, the light will be a little bit longer. But last year, it took us some time to get down the people that we had to cut off, because obviously if you get up there and you're cut off because you're not going fast enough to get down the last mile or two, there's some real issues. So it takes some time to get those people down if that were to happen again this year. So keep in mind that 11 p.m. is the cutoff for that. Let's see. Yeah, there's Costco. All right, so some of the other questions. Can a runner choose to do more than 10 miles, the mandatory 10 miles at the end, and do less than the full thing? No. The answer is no. And the reason for that is our logistics and ability to manage the race. It is a big footprint for this race. It is very remote, maybe not as remote as some of the extreme tries out there, and even some of ours like Iceland, but it's remote enough where we do not have a huge staff. We have enough to do the event and keep you guys as safe as we can. But the second that we start having people, support crews, wander onto the course at, like, let's say they were to meet you at mile 7. Somehow they drove a car up to Winter Creek Trailhead, met you up there and joined in at mile 7. Well, now we've got an extra car up there. We've got dirt kicked up on the road. And now we have someone else on the trail that we don't know is on the trail. So we can see people going out at run start, and then we can see them coming in, and we can see everyone going up on the mountain, coming down to the 24 mile check-in before they go up north face. So there's points we can see people where we know whether or not they're going to have support. So please do not, we can't stop people from spectating, and even support crews that are not running with their athlete from wandering the course and cheering them on. But we do not want to catch people running and pacing and all this kind of stuff when they are not, it has not been told to us that they're going to do that. Okay. It's about safety, and it's hard enough to do when we know where people are at. So just keep that in mind. Let's see here, guys. Sorry, I'm just reading through some of the questions. All right, so someone asked about SAG vehicles. We're still working with Chain Reaction. It's, guys, they run a business. They're one of the only bike shops, one of, not the only, but they're one of the only bike shops, definitely the most popular as far as I can tell. They're great, and we love working with them. They'll be down there for packet pickup. I'm still going to work with Jamie and Amber to see if we can get at least one SAG vehicle out there. Now, when I say SAG and I'm talking Chain Reaction, I'm talking about us potentially getting them out there to help change tires and things like that. Whether or not they're out there, we will have at least one Sprinter van of our own, but know that we may have some tools in there and stuff, but we're not going to have an experienced mechanic in that van. That van is going to have Kevin Galloway, who's one of our right-hand men in this whole thing, and he's the official as well, the head official. So he's the one that's going to talk to people at cutoffs, or if you're barely making that cutoff, he's the one that's going to push you, at least verbally, and say, you just made this. If you keep this up, you may not make the next one. Come on, give it a push, give it a push. He's going to try and encourage you. He's going to give you that real advice. He's going to keep that real with you the whole time, so that despite it maybe that cutoff always nipping at your heels, he wants to see you finish. So do we. So that's his job. He'll have that van. If any of you don't make the cutoff, or something happens with your bike where you can't fix it on your own, or your support can't, he's going to load you up, but you're going to come in when he comes in, kind of deal. He can't just run you in, guys. So one of the other questions that I'm leading into here is with support. And I say on the rules and the support page that you can support between, I believe it's 30 and 80 or 30 and 85, whatever that range is there that I have. And I'm sorry, guys, I write it out so that it's there, and I don't always have to remember it exact, but I think it's 30 to 80. And so whatever that range is there, they can stop whatever's predetermined by you guys and leapfrog you. They can't follow you. They can pass you and go up and stop. But if you get a flat, you're responsible for fixing that flat. If you need to call them, they can turn around as long as it's safe, come up, and as long as they're off the road and it's safe, help you change that. I would not call them unless you've run out of tubes or canisters of air, or CO2 canisters, or there's a reason. Now, if you're in the first 30 or the last 32, 33, and you're not supposed to have them, but you have a flat, and you just can't change it, or you have a mechanical and you're like, oh my God, I can't finish this, you can call them then, guys. That's an exception. That's probably okay. But if we roll up and they're giving you some food and changing a flat, and you've got all that stuff on you, you could have done it, and you're in that danger zone of not having them, not supposed to have them, then that's going to be an issue. Please use your head and don't take advantage of us out there. We're gonna make good calls, hopefully, but we expect you guys to really play by the rules, please. Okay, so I'm just reading down. So when I said, just to be clear, I want to make sure everyone knows, when I said cheering from the van, that's Kevin, and he's not cheering from the van. He's leapfrogging up to the cutoffs, getting out, standing on the side, and telling you to move your butt along and get past it. If you're in a support car and you're leapfrogging and you're passing someone, you are to pass them at speed limit or whatever is safe to do so. You're not following, you don't have flashers on, you're not getting alongside them and slowing down. If you do that, the police will be out and they will write you a ticket if they see it. And it is a big ticket. So just be aware. As you pass by, if your window's down and you're blown by them at a safe speed though, and you yell something and honk your horn, then okay. But be careful not to scare people too with that. So, all right, let's see. Aid stations on the bike, guys, that's on the website, but there's none. There's none on the bike. Your aid station is wherever you stop with your support crew in the allowed area. I would definitely make sure you gauge how much fuel you need, hydration and nutrition, in the first chunk and the last chunk that you're not allowed to have support. We made it so that I know from when I did triathlons for many, many, many years, long distances, I know that the areas we are not allowing the support to go, there is more than enough stuff you can carry on you and your bike without being absolutely ridiculous and looking like, you got suitcases strapped all over you. It's reasonable to say that for 30 miles, you can carry enough nutrition on you on either side of that range. So just plan ahead, know how many you burn, know your sweat rate, all that kind of stuff, okay? And plan ahead there, guys. That's all the ones I have online. Let me go back through here for a second. Clarify about changing wheels. Okay, so changing wheels. If you get out there and you decide, oh crap, I've got a solid disc on the back and I've got a 808 equivalent on the front, and it is windy as hell, side wind, and it's killing me. And the gusts, I feel like I'm going to fall over. I mean, guys, that's your decision that you did that. We can't have everybody bringing all these wheels and changing them all over the highway. It would be a lot. And that's just a rule, kind of extreme tries everywhere. You're not changing those wheels out. If for some reason you were to damage a rim somehow, hopefully that doesn't happen, but if that were to happen and it's not rideable, or it's so windy out there, and again, this is not taking advantage of us saying this. If it's so windy and you have a disc, which usually the disc isn't the problem on the back, it's the deep front wheel that's the problem. But if it's so windy and you're so light and you can't stabilize the bike and it's very unsafe and you find yourself almost crashing because of it, we're going to take you at your word, and that would be somewhere where we would make an exception. But if it's just a generally windy day and you're struggling to really get an aero and keep that straight line because of your wheel choice, you're going to keep that wheel choice, guys. So that's the rule on wheels, not the rule on tires and tubes and all that. So you change those as needed, but the wheel set itself. So odds are if you bring an extra wheel set, you're not going to be able to change it. I think I saw one person in 2 years legitimately have a reason to change a wheel set, and it just so happened they had a wheel set on them. Okay. So I wouldn't go through all that. So, okay. So, something somebody said, it made me think of some other stuff. So make sure you have support. I noticed someone that said they didn't know they needed support. I won't go into that further as far as that post, but, there's still time, guys. If you want to come, you've, paid for all your stuff and you lost your support, find support. Don't give up, especially if you're trained up and ready to go, find that support. You are not allowed to leave bottles stashed all over the place on the bike. If we see that and we see you grabbing a bottle or someone running into a forest, grabbing a bottle or anything like that, if we see any waste anywhere, that's abandonment. That is not a normal penalty like at a normal race. That is disqualification. If a bottle drops on the bike, let's say you hit a bump, bottle drops out. If it's safe for you to do so, and you can get off the bike and get that bottle, and you're not, for instance, if you're on an uphill and you were to stop and you couldn't get back on your bike, or you were going fast on a downhill and you had to hit your brakes, that's not safe. I don't expect you to stop. Now, keep in mind, if we see that, it's still a penalty. It may even be a disqualification. But what I'm getting at is if you can stop and get that safely, you need to do so. One, there's no littering or abandonment. But the bigger thing is, especially on the bike, if something like that's in the road and someone doesn't see it and they're going fast enough and they hit it, that could mean disaster for them. Not just a wipeout and an end of their day, but we've had people before, a good guy, first year, his name's Alan Fry, and it wasn't due to abandonment of something, but he was riding on a trail and hit a tree that had fallen and he didn't see. It was in the shadows, and he's paralyzed. He's gotten to the point where he can walk and everything. He's doing awesome, but he'll always be affected the rest of his life. So if something shoots off your bike and you can get it, please, please, please get it. Okay? That's all I'll say. We'll give a little plug here. We talked about chain reaction, but Aspen Bakery in Girdwood, whether you're on your way down to the race or whether you are waking up that morning and you're headed over for your own breakfast at the grill, which we'll talk about soon. Aspen Bakery is one of the best bakeries I've ever been to. That and the Leadville, the coffee place in Leadville is absolutely amazing too. So anyway, okay, so Christina was nice enough to say, if you need support, any of you, post to the Alaskaman group on Facebook. If you are not part of Facebook and you're seeing this on YouTube or on our website, then what you can do is you can email Aaron at akxtry.com, or you can email through the Extreme Tries website, support at extremetries.com, and we will post for you. If you do that and you don't hear from us, give us another email, please. Don't assume it was done. We're usually pretty good about that, but make sure we reply to you on that, okay? Because we want to try and help you get squared away. I want to be clear though, when you guys signed up, that was part of the deal. So we will help you if we can, but that is on you to secure that, okay? Brewery in Girdwood's great too. So that's actually, we're going to try and work with them again for the prizes for first through third place, overall male and female. And we're going to see what we can do about getting everyone a free beer starting at noon on Sunday like we did last year if you bring in your bib. No guarantees there yet, but we're going to make that one of our first stops to talk to them when we get there. And they're always great to work with. So in any event, I think that is about it, guys. That's all my questions that I got. And I'm looking online here. Let me scroll through real quick. If you have any questions, type them in real quick, please. Let's see. I think all these are answered. Yep. Okay. That is it. So I got to say, I am really looking forward to seeing you guys. Every year when we leave Alaska, we're like, that was a lot. We got some time till next year, and it's a good rest for us. And then just about the time the race is ready to start, we're ready to get back at it. So I could not be more excited about getting out there, marking the course, seeing everybody. And, we're at 104 people this time. First year was 300, last year was 2, and this year was 1. We're going to do all we can to build that back up, especially with locals next year. But I don't care. 100 people right now are dedicated to this, and we couldn't be more excited. So we'll see all you guys there. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Take care, be safe, guys, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.